So we're kicking off a new series today that we've called Thankful and Grateful. And I thought this would be kind of a good time to just kind of focus on these issues. Is that we have kind of Thanksgiving right around the corner, we have the Christmas Advent season, the New Year, and I thought it'd be a really good time to just kind of check in and see what we can be thankful and grateful for. Because, normally at this time of year, we commonly kind of check in with ourselves, right? We'll kind of see how we're doing in our own lives and what's going on. And we'll often look back at the year that's gone by and kind of look at what happened there as well. But this year, the idea of looking at the year going by is a pretty challenging year, right? We've got a pandemic, we've got economic issues, we've got an incredibly hostile political environment. The thought of being able to visit with family and relatives for the holiday season, that's not as easy as it normally is. And so if we get focused on all those things that are so difficult and so bad, I think that's really hard on us. I think that really brings us down, can cause us to worry. It can certainly build anxiety. So what do we do? I mean, if I was to ask each person to kind of just write down 3 or 4 words that come to mind for how you feel at this point in this year, I think very few of us would actually write down the word thankful or the word grateful. But I think if we put our minds to it, I think we can actually find lots of things to be thankful for. But in order to do that, we're going to have to be willing to try. And the Apostle Paul actually gives us some really good advice on dealing with this, is that in the first century, there was a church that he had founded that was having really hard times, and they were experiencing a lot of difficulties. And life for them was really challenging. And so Paul wrote this church a letter giving them advice for how to deal with all these challenges. And I think the advice that Paul gives them is the perfect advice for us. What Paul says is, always be joyful. Never stop praying. Be thankful in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you who belong to Christ Jesus. Now, think about what that information must have been like to come to these folks. They're having all these challenges, having all these difficulties, and maybe they would have expected Paul to say something like, yeah, I know it's hard, so buckle down, suck it up, you can get through this, we'll get to the other side. But that's not what Paul says. With all the challenges that are going on, Paul says, always be joyful. Never stop praying. Be thankful in every circumstance. Now, what he's trying to get them to do is not get caught up in the details of the circumstances that they're living with. What he wants them to do is realize the importance of living in each day. That if they get caught up in all that stuff that's happening around them, it's going to bring them down. Just like for us, if we get caught up in all this stuff that's happening around us, it's going to bring us down. So Paul wanted to kind of repoint them. He says, no, stop. Focus on your connection with God. And then look around for the things that you can be thankful about. Because how you see things, how you experience the things around you is really, really important. It affects how we feel about everything. Now, where did Paul get this idea from? I mean, these people had real problems and real pain, just like people today are having real problems and real pain. So why did Paul think that they should be joyful and thankful in spite of these circumstances? Well, he actually got this idea from Jesus. Because Jesus talked a great deal about living well. And Jesus directed us to see the importance of each day, to always look for the good in each day. Because if we get focused on, if we get focused on the circumstances around us, that's going to bring us down. But if we keep our focus on each day, looking at that day, and then looking for the good that we have in that day, that'll change the way we see things. Because the actions that we take, the outlook that we develop, the attitude that we carry with us, that really matters. It really impacts our experiences in each day. The way Jesus put this was, your eye is like a lamp that provides light for your body. When your eye is healthy, your whole body is filled with light. So the picture that Jesus is painting here is that our eyes are the connection to the world. And so when things flow into our eyes, they impact how we see things, obviously, but also how we feel. And what he wants us to understand is that having a healthy outlook lifts us up. It actually becomes light for us. That when we have a healthy outlook, when we look for the good things around us, that's letting the goodness around us come in. But it's also dangers in how we look at things. Because if we're not looking at the good, something happens. What Jesus said was, but when your eye is unhealthy, your whole body is filled with darkness. So when we don't choose to see the good in things, well, that means that it's darkness, right? It's a dark outlook. That again, these same eyes that are our windows into the world are letting darkness in because we're focusing on the bad things around us. And he goes even one step farther. He then goes on to say, and if that light you think you have is actually darkness, how deep that darkness is. So he's now saying that, well, it's kind of one kind of darkness, it's kind of one kind of badness to actually see the bad things that are out there and let that in. But then if we start to focus on the bad, if we start digging into the bad, that's a whole nother kind of darkness. If we start to focus on the problems and only the bad things around us, that pulls us down. That if we spend time wallowing in that darkness, that's even worse. That's really bad. And this is something that applies to us incredibly today. Because so often when we see something that upsets us, rather than say, I've seen enough, I'm going to move on to something better, so often we dig in on it. For example, how often do we put on a cable news channel and some pundit starts talking about something that really upsets you? And you have the option to turn it off or turn it away at least. Or you can listen to him go on about it for another hour and dig in deeper and deeper. What does that do to you, right? It gets you more and more upset. And that's what Jesus is talking about. How dark is that? How dangerous is that to dig in on upsetting things more and more? Or if we go out to the internet and we click on some clickbait that draws us into some news story that upsets us, and we start reading more and more and clicking more and more of those links, going deeper and deeper into that. Jesus says that we are digging into darkness. And leaving things in that way, and living in that actually really is upsetting. Because how we see things impacts our feelings. Right? Paul tells us to always be thankful. So that means that we don't want to be digging in on all that dark stuff, all that bad stuff. We don't want to let all the ugliness in that we might see around us. Instead, if we will be positive, right, if we will look for the things to be thankful for, we will find those things. Because there's a connection between our attitude and how we see the world around us. If we look for the good, we will find it. It will make us feel better. As we feel better, we can see more good. And it's really important to go that extra step to try to find the good things. There's a speaker, Zig Ziglar, who's a very famous motivational speaker for years. He died about 10 years ago. I'm a really big fan of Zig Ziglar. And one of the things that Zig Ziglar says is that it's really important to be a good finder. Now, when Zig says that, he doesn't mean that if you lose things, you're really good at finding them. What he says is that it's really important in every situation to find the good, to actually make that a goal in each day, to try to find the good. Because it makes you feel better. And as you feel better, you're going to find more good. And as you find more good, you're going to feel still better. And you start this cycle of actually kind of lifting yourself up as opposed to being kind of pulled down by everything that's happening around you. Because in order to live our lives well, we need to be thankful. And kind of the best way to do that, the best way to be thankful, is to start with an attitude of joyfulness. To look around for what's good And that allows us to be thankful in all circumstances by being able to look around and just see the good that's around us. Now, I think that we're living in a great time to make this attitude a priority. Because this is the first Sunday where we can't be together in person, right? This is the first Sunday where we're meeting only online in a number of months. And we're all sad that we can't be here together. I'm sad just like everyone else is. I really wish we could be here together. And if I just focus on the fact that we can't be physically together right now, right, that's going to bring me down, right? It's going to make me really sad. I can even get really upset by it, as I know many people could. So we can either really kind of be brought down by that idea, or we can really look at the positive that's here. Right? Just a few decades ago, if this had happened and we had to close down, we'd have no way to be together. But because of the time we live in, even though we've had to stop meeting physically, we're still together right now, right? We can still get together online, right? We can still stay connected. So this is a fantastic example of the two ways we can look at this. We can focus only on what we can't do, or we can actually take joy in the opportunity we have of be able to come together with what is available by using technology. And I think if we actually look at this in the positive light, we will see that this is indeed an opportunity. I believe that if we make the best of this situation and do all we can to make this the richest online experience that we can, I believe God's going to move through that. Because certainly the pandemic has created challenges, right? But we're adapting to those challenges, right? That we're meeting online now, and we're going to spend these next several weeks trying to improve this experience more and more. And I think by doing that, we're going to develop skills and abilities to reach the world around us that we wouldn't have had otherwise. Because online allows us to reach people who may not be able to be here. People who may have health concerns, who have difficulty getting here. Right? People who may not be able to travel in bad weather. People who may be far away for a time. These are all things that we can overcome when we connect online. So this need to meet online only at this time is allowing us to build up those skills. It's empowering us to reach people even more effectively after the pandemic and kind of continue to build on what we learned during this time. But the reality is that it is often hard to look for the positive. Right? So many of us, me included, tend to be prone to worry. Start focusing on all the things that might happen down the road. And of course, we all know that worrying a whole lot is really productive. Really helps us get a lot done. Now, of course, it doesn't, right? We all know that. The reality is that worry actually steals our days from us. Jesus actually said it this way. Jesus said, "Can all your worries add a single moment to your life?" So has anyone found that worrying adds any time to your life? It doesn't, right? Worry actually takes from us. In fact, the more time I spend worrying today, the less time I actually spend focused on today. Worry actually steals our time from us. So if there was only one thing you took away from this message today, if there's only one thing that you kind of carry with you after we wrap up today, it's the importance of living fully in each day. That we want to really make the best of each day that we have. Because as we start looking too far down the road, as we start worrying about the things that might happen next week, that might happen next month, that might happen next year, we're going to start to fill that picture in with a lot of ugly things. And the thing is that we get really caught up in all these things that might happen, that suck up a lot of our energy, they create anxiety, and they cause us to worry. And all those things are just stealing from us today. They add no time later, and they just really keep us from living fully in the day. We want to do our best to live day by day in the most full way that we possibly can. And I really think the best way to do that is focus on being positive right at the start of each day. that I personally really like to start out each morning just focusing on my connection with God in the day ahead. And one of the things I like to do is that as I start my day, I'm like, Lord, show me your will for my life today. What does he want me to do today? And I think that just creates a connection, right? It allows me to focus on the day ahead and allows me to be aware of my relationship with God. And one of the things that I found, that if I focus on the day ahead, and I kind of focus on life in these kind of 24-hour segments, things get more manageable, right? Because for the most part, each of us know the things we need to do today, right? We may have to go to work. We may have to contact somebody about something. We may have to do some work around the house. But basically, we're living within the day, and our choices within that day will tend to be pretty clear, right? Knowing the next right thing to do within a day is generally pretty straightforward. But as I start to worry, that takes me out of the day, and it keeps me from focusing on this day, and it takes me to some place where I really can't do much about it. Right? That I'm spending time in future days that I'm not really quite certain what they're going to be like. So I'm actually losing today at the cost of a future that may not at all be like the way I'm picturing it. Mark Twain actually captured this in a statement. What Mark Twain said was, I've had a lot of worry in my life, but most of it never happened. So what we need to do is we need to stay in today, because as we're worrying, again, we're just taking away from today. As we stay in today, the tasks ahead get more manageable. It's easy and straightforward to know the next right thing to do in all those things that we're doing. If we stay focused on what we can do today, it makes our life better. Right? It really allows us to just walk through what's right in front of us. I believe that's what Paul and Jesus wanted us all to see. The value of staying in the day. And as I said, it's really great if we just kind of, as we look ahead at the day, to connect with God and take an opportunity to invite God into your day at the start of each day. I mean, just kind of imagine that if each day you kind of just had this attitude of like, Lord, I don't know what the long-term picture is, but I know what I have to do today. So God, I'm going to trust you to lead me through today, and I'm going to trust that you're going to meet my needs today. Now I'm going to do my part. Right? I'm going to use the gifts and abilities and opportunities that you've given me, and I'm going to do the best with all of those that I can. And then I'm going to trust in you, God, to show me what to do along the way. I think if we do that, it makes it easier for us to stay focused on just today. And I truly believe that's life-changing, that if we can focus on today, it helps push away those worries. Because things are much more concrete, right? Things are much more visible and understandable if we stay in today. But as we start looking down the road to things that we don't necessarily know how they're going to be, that is just going to build us up with anxiety, right? It's going to take away from today. And not only does it take away from today, but it makes us less productive today because we're focused on the things that we're worrying about. So I would encourage each of us, as we head into this holiday season, right, through Thanksgiving, Advent, Christmas, into the New Year, I would encourage each of us to choose to live in each day. And Jesus really wraps up in a single statement kind of what we need to really focus on here. What Jesus says is, so don't worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will bring its own worries. Today's trouble is enough for today. Now, I don't know about you, but on the surface, that doesn't really sound very encouraging to me. It sounds like I just got a whole bunch of stuff to worry about. But if we dig into it, there's an incredible amount of wisdom there. What Jesus is simply saying is that you've got plenty of stuff to do today. Do that stuff, right? Deal with those things. Deal with the things that are in today. Don't get caught up in the things that might happen later. When you do that, it takes you out of today. And all you're doing is creating a worse experience for yourself today. That's what we do when we worry. We're ruining the days we're in, worrying about the future. And it causes us to be so much less effective with the challenges we face in that day. If we stay focused on the challenges we have today, we can use our abilities to get things done, right? We can look for God's help within the day. And as we do that, we'll see that more and more gets done. I mean, I'm a person who really likes to use lists. So I try to do each day, some days more effectively than others, is I make a list of all the things I need to do today. And as I go through and I do those things, I check them off. And when I get to the end of the day, if I can look back and see all the things I got done today, I have a real sense of accomplishment. I have a real sense of the things that got done. Even if I didn't finish every single thing on my list, I still get that sense of accomplishment. But if instead, I just start the day and I just start kind of grabbing at things and just kind of doing everything as it crosses my path, when I get to the end of the day, I have a very hard time seeing what got done today. Instead, what I see is all the things that aren't done and all the things I worry about that I might have to do later. And that all happens because I haven't stayed focused on making the most of this day. So it's so important that we start the day well. Right? That's what's really going to set us up for living well in that day. And I was talking recently to Bruce after church one Sunday, and he shared with me something he and Mary used to do at the start of each day. And it really resonated with me because Bonnie and I actually do the same sort of thing each day. Bruce shared with me that at the start of each day, Mary and he would actually repeat a verse from a psalm. The verse is, "This is the day the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it." And Bonnie and I do that same sort of thing. And the thing that we find is that this attitude of recognizing that this is the day the Lord has made, it shows us that today is a gift. It's something that God has given us. And if I'm going to rejoice in it and be glad in it, what am I going to do? I'm going to try to stay positive. I'm going to look for the good things. I'm going to find the positive things around us. It makes all the difference. So my encouragement for all of us as we head into this holiday season is to let's not get hung up on all the things that might happen down the road, all the possible changes that might happen somewhere, the way some things might go. Let's not focus on all that. Let's start each day with a way to be more positive, more connected. So I'm going to ask each of us to start each day with a little exercise. I would encourage each of us to do it every day for the next week. I'd really encourage each of us to do it every day. What I would encourage us to do, though, is to start each day first with that simple declaration. This is the day the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. And then after you say that, say a simple 2-line prayer. Something like this. Lord, please reveal your will for me today. And please give me the ability to do it. I truly believe that if we start out with a declaration like that and a prayer like that God's going to answer that prayer. That God will take you through your days. And as we're going through our days and we started our day with that kind of connection with God, and we keep that attitude in mind, we'll see that God is with us as we go through the day. So each time through that day, if we face something that we're uncertain on how to deal with, well, we can ask God, God, what would you have me to do with this? How would you have me to go forward? And then each time in that day, as we're tempted to worry about something down the road, we can ask God, God, help me to stay in this day. Help me to do the things that are in front of me right now. I believe if we do that, we will see a change. And I think our days will be more productive. And we will see more joy in each day. I think we'll find that there are far more things to be thankful for than it may seem as we first look around. Let's each pray. So Lord, I just praise you for our ability to connect here with technology. Lord, I praise you for this church family. Lord, I just thank you for all you give us, Lord. So I pray for each of us here that are watching today, Lord, anyone who watches it in the future. Lord, I pray that you would show each of us how to live in the day, Lord, to how to embrace the gift of the day you've given us, how to walk more fully in this day. Lord, I pray that we would each be moved to focus on our connection with you at the start of the day. Lord, and I pray that we would each see the love you have for us, the goodness you place around us, and help us all to see the things around us that we can be thankful for. I pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen.